Okay, amazing. Right, welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name's Kim French. I'm the founder of Edit Girls and I'm the host of today's chat with Ma. We're calling it Edit Girls Career Chats. And yeah, it's brilliant to have Ma here. Thank you for joining us. Ma is this is my little blurb about her. She's a creative force. She shared her story with Edit Girls a while back now, maybe a couple of years, feels like. She brings flair and uniqueness of perspective to every single one of her projects, and she's won multiple prestigious awards, including D&AD, Clio Awards. Any others, Ma? There's a whole list. You can tell us more about that in a minute. She's originally from Brazil, and now she splits her time between New York and LA. We'll talk a bit more about that as well. She's represented by Post House's Cut and Run in the US, and in the UK, she's repped by The Quarry. She's worked on brand pieces for brands including Vans, Oreo, and Oakley, and with artists including Billie Eilish, Dua Lipa, and Megan Thee Stallion. Her obsession with honing her own style and passion projects, I feel, is like totally a beacon of inspiration for all editors. And if you're not already following her on Instagram, then I highly recommend you do, to keep up with her work, because she's producing some amazing stuff. So Ma, welcome. If you're happy to start with just telling us a little bit about what you do, how it started, and what sort of brought you to where you are today and what you're doing now within your role as editing.
Yes, thanks everyone for being here. I'm really happy this worked out. I talked to you before, it was just an interview, but it's nice to be able to answer questions. So yeah, for people that doesn't know, I'm Brazilian, and so in Brazil I started when I was about 13 years old, and I would download TV shows, normally American TV shows that I did not have access there, so I would download the torrents and re-edit them, mostly as music videos, or changing the story for characters I like together or something like that. Something silly as a kid, but that's kind of how I started playing with Movie Maker at the time. and then from then, growing up, I started coming to the US a lot for doing courses filmmaking, writing, all sorts of courses when I could, during summer. And then when I was older, when I was 18, I think, I went to New York to do a filmmaking 1-year course that would become a bachelor degree. And I spent the year in New York. I was supposed to go to LA, and then I actually fell in love with New York, so I stayed there and moved to the new school where I graduated eventually. And there I did a lot of courses, from editing to anything filmmaking related, but also general. I had I don't know, a cheese class. It was pretty out there. It wasn't super focused, but which I love. Mm-hmm. And then during my time there, I did a lot of interning. So I didn't know how long I could stay in America. So I was just doing as much internships I could and whatever I could get. So I did a lot of internships in production houses, mostly as PA or whatever, mostly production driven. Some editing, but nothing much. It was only I also worked at the International Emmy Awards, which was fun to really understand the content around the world, what was happening. I was obsessed with Scandinavian TV because I learned so much about it watching when I was there, or whatever it is, the soap operas in Turkey. Everything was super interesting. So that was pretty cool. And I love to do different things too, not be completely focused on, I think other things inspire me. So I appreciate these other internships I did that wasn't editing driven. So then after that, when I graduated, I started, I was a receptionist at Uppercut, which is a post house that's still around. and I was pretty bad at it. I was terrible at it. I couldn't understand. My English wasn't that bad, that good
So
back
you're
then.
answering phones and doing that
I
kind of.
couldn't get anything. They would
Yeah.
call me like so and so for so and so. I had no idea. I'm like here, someone is at the line. But I was lucky that like the founder, Micah, who's also an editor, was pretty. I don't know. He was everything was starting at the time, and he was like there for me. So he opened the path for me to like be an assistant pretty quickly. He asked me which path I wanted to go, if I wanted to be more producing or be an editor, and I definitely wanted to be an editor, which he was excited about and gave me an opportunity to be an assistant. So that was it was a great opportunity that it's hard to get, when you get into a post house. Normally you take longer for these things to happen, but since they were new, I guess I got lucky there, and he was a great mentor. So him and another editor there kind of like taught me a lot about the craft in general, but I also learned a lot about the industry, which was for me the most important, I think, because I could finally like see myself like what I wanted to do. Like I saw what an editor does for real, like just being there around that, and I could understand that that's what I wanted. So I started.
Was it always advertising then? You kind of fell in love with that as an industry as opposed to any other?
Yeah, they are mostly advertising, and it was pretty much the advertising world, which is pretty intense, but it was cool, and there was some glamour around it, and it was fun, and I don't know, I was caught up in it for a lot of reasons, but I was excited, and I guess because the company was starting to, I felt so part of it that it was just a very, very fun and inspiring to be there. And even my mentors, again, like they're both very different, and still it was so interesting to learn from them, to have the opportunity and to be there. I don't know, it felt really good. So I could be traumatized, which I kind of was at the end, but not at this point. But it was really good and inspiring, so I liked it. And yeah, it was advertising, but we would do a lot of like, for example, big jobs that I would do there was like those Volvo commercials that are like short films. So it was pretty narrative driven, cinematic. It wasn't like, I started with pharma commercials that, whatever, or other commercials that are more traditional. Like these were pretty, like very beautiful, very, very well done. So it was like really nice advertising to start. Maybe that's also why I was like inspired by it. So yeah, so since they were like starting, I was able to cut a lot. Like they kind of put me as a kind of a beauty editor or fashion editor. I had like my own clients, and I could do some junior editing. So I took a lot of responsibility very fast, which made me learn a lot. And then I don't know, by one point, I don't know, I'm bad with dates, but I already started feeling confident. So I had my own like director friends or contacts that I would work like after hours. So after my 9 to 5, I would stay and work on my own things, my own projects, which was also encouraged by Micah and the company, which was also great. So then I could like play and be myself and like explore, and it was really there, like in those times, those like after hour times, that in those projects that I created like a reel that I felt was strong, and was strong enough for me to eventually be a freelancer and do that in a bigger scale. And then now I'm repped. Guess we're gonna get there, but
yeah.
but yeah.
What was the gap between the time? So obviously you worked at was it called Uppercut, and then
Yeah, I'm really bad with time. If you go to, maybe I have to even go to my LinkedIn to remind myself. But anyway, it's like 1 year to, it's usually 1 year and a half, 2 years. Like it's pretty quick. The thing, like I didn't stay long, like because as an assistant I already started cutting, and then I went freelancing, and in my year freelancing was like actually so important. Like I was truly just like exploring and doing myself and being confident in like my editing without having like a company or too many clients or other things to pay attention. So it was really great. And then by the end I got the Young Guns Award, which also like it's another like confidence boost of like you're doing the right thing, you're doing your thing, and um it's being recognized. So it was really like that was the most important for me, even right now as an editor, to have that moment, like kind of like my single time, right? So just be myself and find who I am, and then be able to like get into a relationship again, which what I did with Cut and Run. So yeah, so I don't know exactly the times, but it was probably a year and a half, a year or so in each. I mean, Cut and Run was longer, probably 2 years. But like one as an assistant and one as a junior editor, it kind of it went fast.
With the work that you showcase at the moment, like the stuff on your website, which ones did you do in your freelance time, and then which ones were under representation, like or under your representation?
Let me look, because that's pretty interesting to me too, because it's like actually like my most awarded projects, usually they're the ones I did as a freelancer, or the ones that have no money, the ones, you know what I mean? It's so interesting. So yeah, like let me see, to start the beginning, I'm looking at my website. I have like I had like a first short film, a fashion film thing I did. That's actually for a Brazilian like brand that, anyway, it was a long time ago. I did that when I was at Uppercut, like probably still assisting or starting to be a junior editor. So this is an example of one that I would do after hours, and it was like my thing, and it was really fun. So I did that with a director friend of mine.
What we can do as well is we can make a little note of these. Like, I think it's really interesting for people watching, like to see the work that you did as a freelancer, the work that you did a bit later on when you were represented.
Then I have I can show that, because I even had a presentation that shows a little like passion projects and brand projects, and at one point these are so mixed that you don't even know. It's not easy to track, you know.
I'm sure. Well, we'll share it we'll share it when this is posted to YouTube. We'll put them underneath as well, because I think that it's interesting.
So then I had
go on, you go.
No, yeah, because I had others that are like big ones, like the Rosalia one. Now I have other Rosalia ones, but it was one with Billboard, another one with Billboard with coffee. These are like they won a lot of things. I had Holy Dog, which is a short film with Marriott. These are all like was when I was freelancing. And then even the Oreo was with the Post House, but I was still freelancing in freelance times. Megan Thee Stallion, this one I was still freelancing, it was right before I joined Cut and Run. But like it's just interesting. These are like, I don't know, it just shows how it doesn't matter much, like if you're doing your thing, if you have your style figured out and you're confident, like you don't necessarily need to have the backup. It's great too, and I have reasons to join a Post House, but it's also nice to see for people that are freelancing how you can do, you can do so much.
I guess it also all leads, obviously, in the simplest terms, like your path was essentially junior PA stuff at a Post House, getting in the right opportunities, and then being able to take a step back from that to freelance for a bit, and then getting the big, these are big Post Houses, like getting that kind of representation, but finding your own style like in the middle. Do you think so in terms of getting signed then, like how did that happen? Like how did that come about?
So I was doing very well like as a freelancer, because I was very focused on that and having, I guess, people that recommended me, and one thing leads to another, and then I got the Young Guns. And I think I would say the Young Guns kind of, it was a little before that, but the Young Guns helped like put my name back post houses were like interested, so a lot of them like started reaching out. And I was skeptical because I was just doing well. I had like even like TV commercials were coming my way, which was very different for freelancers. And I feel freelancers in general in the whole industry were like, it was back at being a thing, being a freelancer. Like everybody just preferred to be a freelancer. So I was like, and I was supported by Forager, which is a company that they are basically more of a casual post house, because they give you the support, but it's not as, they don't have offices, it's not as proper as a house, but they were giving all I needed, so I wasn't completely alone. So for me it was like mostly about a question of like, what's next? Like, I'm doing well here, but what's next? Like, I think I'm like that with everything. Like, I don't wait till I'm, I hit a ceiling. Like, I like to leave when I'm up or things are good, and I just, mostly to challenge myself or do something different. So I started talking to them, and it was really hard actually. I usually am pretty confident in my decisions. I'm like, things are clear to me, but it was so hard to make a decision because it's so personal and it depends so much on so many things. And it's so, I don't know, it's not like easy an easy
Was
decision
that
to.
a decision between which post house to go to or to go to
I
post?
mean, for me, it was which, because and if I wanted to, but I made that call because I prefer to like try it, to risk it, to change than not to. Like usually that's how I roll. So I
Yeah.
was like, I was like, okay, I feel that this is the time, and if it's not, I leave in a year. Like it's not, and no problem. And I did also, contracts wise, I can make it so I can still have some freedom, things like that. So I was like, it's fine, I'm gonna try this. um, but which one to go was a thing too. It's like very personal, there's so many like pros and cons and so many, so it was a tough decision. But again, I'm like, and I'm happy with my decision. But it's something that, if someone is going through that, it's nice to talk to people. I understand how it can get complicated to make that call, but it was good. And then I started with Cut and Run last year, so it's been a year and a few months, and it's been great because they understand what they understand. They like understand what I did in my freelance time. They understand my brand, like how all that because it was hard for me to leave control of something I built for myself, and it's so good to have that control and understand. So I was scared of losing that, but they are very supportive. So it's just getting that extra support and help, and not necessarily taking your hands off
Yeah.
the handle. I don't know.
Yeah, no, it's true. I can imagine that feeling. I think that you have to, what's been so nice to see, and again, it's just from an online perspective, but your website is kind of the destination, but then obviously people can discover you through
Exactly.
the Quarry and Cut and Run.
Mm-hmm.
And it's only going to be a benefit, and it's only a benefit for the post houses that you have your freedom, because otherwise you're not doing the work to the best of
Yeah.
your sort of space. So I think it's really important to like have that courage and conviction. But so you've been rep by Cut and Run for a year and a half, and then how long have you been with the Quarry?
The Quarry, it was, I'm really bad with time with dates.
Yeah.
I can't, but it was
It
it was
doesn't
late.
matter. I mean,
Yeah, it was later on because
Yeah.
they basically have this connection with Cut and Run, but they don't rep all the Cut and Run editors. So it was a few months later. I don't remember, but they wanted me there, which is cool. It's interesting because like I work with Europe a lot in general, not only UK. So it's good to have them, and it's that support. Like I even I think I may go to, like when I go to London, I work from there's this type of support. But with the pandemic and all, like you don't, that's the only thing you see. Otherwise I already worked with people in Europe often, or even Brazil or whatever. So you don't, these things are
Again, it's
less
like another
obvious.
shop front, isn't it? It's just another place for your work and your name to be.
Yeah.
And I guess it kind of leads us on, because you were saying before, like you are splitting your time between New York and LA. Like, is that quite sort of set, or is it the jobs take you wherever? How does that work between New York and LA?
So I Cut and Run, they have offices in LA, New York, San Fran, Austin, and then Quarry in London. So like in theory, I could be all these places or anywhere now because of like COVID and the pandemic. Like I don't need to be anywhere. So when I signed, they are most like my team, my EP and my assistants, and most of them, they're all like from the West Coast, which is already like something that kind of drove me to West Coast. But then I started dating someone, and that's basically why I'm with someone in LA. So we are back and forth. So that's mostly the reason. Like we can work both places. She's also an editor, so we can both work in New York or LA or anywhere. So we basically see what makes sense. Sometimes it is a job, but like we want to stay in the same time zone, or we need to be there for any reason. But but it was a mix of everything, and now we just go back and forth.
And I guess, like, again, even though remote working was completely a doable thing before the last 2 years, it's only in the last 2 years I certainly see it from, you know, perspective of the production company I work at, is that people just take it as a given now. Like it's completely fine. You were saying about like assistants. How do you, obviously if they're based on the West Coast, it's good to be together to a degree, but how does remote working with assistants kind of you know, if you want to talk about like slightly like the nitty gritty of how that works, like
I mean I'm lucky. I love my assistants. Like I like a lot of them, which is you know, sometimes hard to even get one good one in whatever, but I have really great ones. And I think it depends, like we kind of set the tone at the beginning, like, okay, we're going to work on New York time, or even if I'm in LA, I can decide to work on New York time because it makes more sense, or the opposite. So, or Central time, like whatever it is. So we figured out what it's going to be. So nobody's like, you know, double working or working so much and things like that. But sometimes I work in situations where my assistant, like I work up until my time, and then I work my New York time, and then they pick it up for the LA time to do other things, or to finesse, or to, I don't know, prep, or whatever it is that they need to do. Like sometimes it's even better because we have a whole day. Like it's like half of me or they prepare something for the next day, so I wake up on my time and everything's ready, because you know, so we communicate. But I love it. I think I love this whole no office situation for a lot of reasons. So it's great. I think it's actually more productive.
I think working with people's own rhythms of how they like to work is so important. You get so much more out of people. We do actually have a question from Simon related to being in New York. So when you're in New York, do you only do cut and run projects, or like how do the two reps coordinate? You talked about the fact that the Quarry and Cut and Run have got a connection. Like how do they manage your schedule, or you know, the jobs that come in, the different brands that come in? What does that look like?
Yeah, I mean, Cut and Run is the US rep, so any US jobs go through them, and then the Quarry will be the UK jobs. They have a connect, like they have a, I don't know, some sort of deal. So it's easier that way. Like I don't, you know, they communicate between themselves. What makes more sense? What makes more sense? Even with but for example, I have a US jobs, but I'm gonna be in London, so they talk to the Quarry, and I'm able to work from there in the US job. So it's really easy and simple. Like I had moments to like, I got reached out to like be part of representation in other countries and things like that, and that's more complicated. So I think your question would be more about that situation that I think could get a bit tricky. But in my case, it's easier because they have some sort of deal between each other, so I don't need to worry.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And it's kind of nice that you don't have to worry about that. Like you can just focus on the creative side. Like that's what you're sort of, yeah, there to do. So I just want to go back to like your career as a whole. It'd be really good to sort of talk about like some key moments. Like we all know, I look back on my career and I think, that moment is when my path went that way, or that project is what brought me to this project. Like what have
Yeah.
been the sort of key and pivotal moments in your career?
Okay. Starting by me moving to the US, because I think that was something that I really wanted to do. And it was very much a dream, and a very much, even though I have the opportunity to be able to go to a school here, which is not what everybody, especially in Brazil, have, but being able to do that it's a big step. I was very young. I came, to do this alone with that drive. So that's something very important for my path. My whole life would be completely different in Brazil. Not sure better or worse, but different. So I'm really glad that happened. And then I guess from these moments, the moment that I became freelancer was very important. I was very scared because my visa, it's always about the visa, but my visa was connected with Uppercut, and I was super scared of having to go back. These things that we have to always be worried about. So it was really tough, and they actually were like, no, it's fine, like if you need anything, we're here, which is again this type of lucky situations where you have that support, that it's not always there. So that happened, and then as a freelancer, but I did have to change my visa to the artist visa, the whole one. So changing from one to the next is also like it's that to me is the hardest part ever for people that are foreign here. Like it's so annoying and terrible. And I don't know, it's not terrible, but if it's a lot of work, and emotionally it's a lot too. I had to like prove that I'm like this extraordinary abilities person, that's how they call it, to be able to stay. And I was just like out of college. So it's a mix of like, yes, I am this artist and special, like extraordinary ability person, and at the other hand you're like, I'm lying to the government, like I don't know, like what the hell is this, like it's and it feels so like I'm nothing, so it's a mix of feelings. So that's really tough. Anyway, so getting the visa.
I remember, just back on that, like I had a similar thing because I worked in Toronto for 4 years and I was sponsored, and then I had to move company, or I did a similar thing where I had to then apply to say, no, I'm the only person that can get this job, in the whole thing, which is kind of, you are, and you're also, it's just kind of a balance, but you got to work the system in a positive way to get what you need for you.
It's a ride, and especially when you're young, I still kind of deal with this, but I understand now. But like one of the reasons why I started even getting awards or applying for things like that was for my visa. And nowadays of course it's great and it's different, but it's good and bad. It makes you do things that you necessarily wouldn't do, but it does push you to be the best. So it is, you have to to stay. So it's a mix. But I was talking about me becoming a freelancer was very important, just to like have that like confidence with myself and with my editing and with my career, being in charge of that of my path. I think I still hold that with me. Like I'm at a post house, but never for a second I'm thinking I have to work towards what they want. Like it's still my career, and they support me, and we are great together as a team, and not like I'm part of this and I do, so it's a mentality, and I love that was built through those years as a freelancer. And then what else? I mean, the Young Guns awards, like things like that were very important, like because the Young Guns, I like my reel, like what I sent, basically you sent out like 6 pieces of work or something, and then you either get the Young Guns, which is the award for under 30 talented, like I don't know, talents, creative talent under 30, and there's different categories. There's like design, there's film, there's many categories that you could be part of. And for film, it was usually like directors, and it was mostly directors, I think, that would ever win this category. So I won as an editor, which was the first time ever. I don't even think it happened again, but but there is more like nominees and finalists that are editors, so that's good. But anyway, it was like a big thing for me. Like I was an editor, I was a woman, I was there's a lot of things, and the reel was mine from my freelance time. Like I didn't have much support, so that was pretty cool and important. And after that, also post houses got interested in a lot. So those are important moments.
I think another sort of great question on that would be like, what advice do you have for people entering awards? Yeah, I mean, do you have any sort of advice for how to present yourself, or anything that you feel really, apart from obviously the work itself, but just anything else in terms of entering awards other than do it?
Yeah, I think do it is the one, because it's my only advice, because you never know. Like I find it actually very interesting. Like you can do really well in some awards and not really well and not that well in others, but at the end of the day you kind of see like award season. Like I find it fun, maybe because I worked at the Emmys, because I was I find it cool. I find it nice because you end up seeing like kind of like the same like projects around the award seasons, and then you see some win best and the other, like some in, you can beat someone in one and the other not, and it's still like you don't know, it could be even me as a judge, sometimes I'm watching something I find not great and he wins all the other things, or I find it amazing and he doesn't get it. So I do find it, yeah, I love that. Like I have situations where you get frustrated, like people are like, why this win? I'm like, I love that it did. Like it should be like that. We're not all the same. Like have to see what the industry feels too. Like you can see what I think and what another agency creative that's completely different background than me, or just creatively different, they think differently, and I like that. So just do it, because you really never know.
Yeah, I agree. And it could be, again, a key moment in your career when those awards, if you do get through, or even not winning, like just having the exposure to a degree. If you're nominated, or if the judges see your work, you don't necessarily win, like you said, there's still connections to be made. There's a few questions coming in, so I think that it might be quite nice to answer a few of those. Obviously, we've got 20 minutes. I want to make sure that we use the time really, really well and get some questions answered. So I don't know, Mara, have you seen anything pop up? I know we've been chatting, but
Let me go back.
Is there one that like jumps out to you that you really want to answer?
There's one. Diego asked, I'm just going back, but he asked, as a creative person, how do you push back on client feedback or provide an avenue for your voice, given so many brands have such strong guidelines? Cool. Yes, because that is interesting, because it's a thing. Like I feel that for me the rough cut is like where I put my all. Like I'm actually always that I send a rough cut, no matter how amazing, like I can be like, this is the best thing I've ever did, and I'm still nervous. So it's like I feel it's the most vulnerable moment. That's like, because I put a lot in it. Some editors like just do a rough as an idea, and it's not that, and they build, like different people have different processes. For me, I want my rough cut to be like done, finished, ship, like, so I'm most of the time, not always, but most of the time I'm like put my all there. So it's like for me it's hard after the rough cut is like, oh, the notes is like, okay, it's like hard to how to find that, especially when it gets to the client notes and brand work, but in agency. But I learned to like let go in a way, but be able to still, it's not let go like I don't care, but understand that it's gonna happen and just go with it, and be able to show what works, show what doesn't, and communicate. And have to, like the best advice would be like, you always kind of have to show that it doesn't work, or show another path, or just communicate with them. And sometimes you see you are able to communicate, sometimes you just can't, and for your own like mental health to have to let go. But but I think it's a communication, and it changes. And sometimes you can think, like I can think it's perfect, and then by the end you kind of see that something changed and it was actually important, that change was important. So it's better to kind of be more easygoing and understand your fights and understand when it's time to like show something, to fight something, who to talk to. Sometimes you can team up with a director to try to to get something approved. So there's different tactics you can try, but also it is important at one point to be like, okay, it's gonna come out and it's not gonna be exactly like my rough cut. It's not gonna be exactly and sometimes I'm lucky enough that it is very close and it's the essence is there, and sometimes it isn't, and you have to kind of go to the next, or feel that it's still a collaborative industry, and you have to also hear these voices and whatever. And you can also bitch about it later if you want.
Yeah, exactly. You can't win all of them. Picking your battles. Diego, does that answer your great question?
Yeah, thank you. I worked with Gary Knight as his assistant for a bit, and so seeing him do that was just like magic, the way he can like incept people. So I presume that that's something that Ma does as well. But yeah, thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like I feel we do have to know how to pitch well too. Like I know exactly why I did something, so I can be like, I did this because I usually know, which is an ad. Sometimes it happens, and that's what you have. It's nice to understand, so you can pitch why you did things. That also helps, so you don't have to always keep showing that the other one doesn't help. But it's very different depending on the project.
Constantly storytelling, like the why behind it.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. What other ones? So again, we've got some great questions. So if we kind of focus here, I think we'll get some really nice
yeah, I have another one here. It just opened here, but about my sound design. I think after watching your recent cut for Vans, which I love so much, thank you. I was curious about how sound design affects your editing process. Do you start editing with sound in mind, or comes later? How much the sound design conditions your vision and overall editing? Yeah, for me, like, I mean, editing is sound too. Like it's video and sound. It's all everything. Like for me, sound is essential. Like you can't do one without the other. So I always have sound design in my cuts, in my first cuts, and I find that it drives me 100%. Like I actually, yeah, it's like so much. Like sometimes you even get stuck if someone gives you like a music to work. I'm like, you're already like driving my edit. I prefer to not have that and just build from scratch. Like that's when you really find what is the pace that you want to that this is feeling like, and it's kind of, you have to do it and play around. So I always play with sound design while I'm cutting. The Vans one, I did a lot of the sound design. I actually, at the end, the finishing, the mix house, the sound house was a little bit of a fighting situation. Not fighting, but it was a back and forth of like, because I got so attached with my sound, and then we had to communicate. And I work pretty well because with mix and sound houses, like, because I know they enhance what I did, and I'm cool with it. But sometimes like it's so important to me, I'm like so involved, because it's just, yeah, it's so much part of it that even in this project was a whole thing to make sure the sound was was great.
Do you tend to kind of, because obviously again I was talking with Beth Roberts last month about the fact that track, like just the way that music and sound, actually that is the thing that's setting the pace. Do you tend to lay that down and then work on the visuals, or both at the same kind of time, like they sort of happen organically together?
Yeah, for me it's like at the same time. Like you feel the visuals with the sound, and then you switch. Like I don't think I can do one and the other, because then I'm assuming this is gonna feel the one way. I don't know, with the sounds. So I do as I'm changing. So like now this has to feel this way. So what visuals and what sounds makes me feel this way? And then moves on to whatever. So it could be a rough pass of that and then go back to, you know, finessing that. But for me, it happens together. I mean, I do like rough, very rough sound design at the beginning and then come back to like a pass, that for sure. But I don't do one separated from, I don't think that works in my brain.
Yeah, I hear you. I'm just gonna sort of jump on the very last question that's come in from Kayla. As a junior editor trying to make the jump to editor, how did you push to make sure the jobs you were given lined up with what you wanted to do? So often as someone is building a career, we're told to take whatever jobs we can get. So were you like at the very early stages, I think what we're looking at, like you obviously were assisting and then did things on the side.
Yeah.
Did you, I suppose you couldn't really say no to anything you were doing in your day job, but you could say yes to the right things.
Exactly.
Yeah,
exactly. Like my day job, I would do the beauty things or whatever it is that was what, like, you know, it was a good opportunity for client facing things, for, you know, for the business. Again, the industry part was really important, but the creative part for me was more important to get the jobs with my like director friends or other people than like one recommend the other and things like that. But that's when you have the freedom. Like that's at that beginning, that's where I chose to be working with my friend directors that I admired, that were doing cool things. And then I created, and then even with one good project, you can show off a lot, and then you get another similar project, you know, so you want to get the next basically, and you like, and then one thing leads to the next, and you have a reel, you know. But yeah, you have to use kind of those like freelance and first relationships to like do the things you like, so it attracts the things you like later, you know.
I mean, it sounds like within, you know, the people that you develop relationships with, obviously creative people, directors, like they were, because you're a creative person, the kinds of friends that you would make. In terms of building relationships with directors, like what sort of advice do you have for that?
But then with that, like for example, that I have friends that were creative so great that if you don't have that, like I was at Uppercut, and I did make relationships with the clients there, which also when I went freelancing, when I became freelancer, like I had some people from like that knew me as an assistant that trusted me to like do other projects, like smaller projects with me as a freelancer. So it's all like you have to make, you know, whatever, put yourself in the situation where you are around people that you want to be around, that you want to work with, that you admire, and then make those connections. So either it is your day job or it's your personal life. But yeah, you actually do find that these pay off, and these people actually, like, more people are more welcoming than you think, and they actually can meet for coffee and you know, keep you in mind for something, or you know. So it's kind of the way, just be around the people you admire and talk to them.
I mean, I like wholeheartedly agree, and I think one of the things to say as well is to, okay, yes, obviously things are changing as of the last 2 years coming out of lockdown and being more able to be in physically social situations, but that is not the only way that networking can work. And what I hope that with a platform like Edit Girls, the fact that the women are put out there, if there's someone's career, like we had a really nice story where someone connected with a particular story that was shared with that editor, and then she reached out to the editor, and then she's now working at the post house that the editor was working at, because she was able to build that relationship. So all the beauty of online, you know, across the world, if there's someone creatively that you love their work, like reach out and tell them. Like you never know where things could lead.
For sure.
Okay, so we've got 10 minutes and we do have a few more questions. I think it would be quite nice to focus on like specific projects as well. So Eileen has asked about the Megan Thee Stallion New York Times project. she'd love to know about how you approached it. She says awesome work, which obviously it is. You mentioned that it was one that you did as a freelancer, so you were freelancing. Like how did you get the opportunity to do that job, and then how did you approach it creatively?
So that was interesting because it was the project came to me through, I think, the director, and it was for Megan Thee Stallion, like her label or something. It was like not for the New York Times yet. It was just that, and it was a small job. There was like no money. It was supposed to be, I swear, like 2 days. Like it was like crazy. It was a crazy turnaround. It was like nothing. And then something happened. Like she didn't show up to the set or some shit that artists do, and then had to like shoot another day. So it extended due to that. If I remember it well, and then. Anyway, and then I started cutting, and then something else happened. I don't know if you had enough footage. I don't know what happened. We had to add stock footage, which I despise. Like I hate it. I prefer trying any other thing. I'll shoot it myself before getting that, but it happens, and sometimes unless it makes sense for the project. But in this case, we just had to do it, and it was just like a nightmare actually in terms of it wasn't like straightforward. But it was a director that truly let me do my thing. So I was trying to like not save, but like I was trying to like make it cool and make it interesting and have a fun. So since the things weren't perfectly aligned, it wasn't like there was not a storyboard and everything was shot beautifully like a commercial. So I just did my thing, which is the good part, and the director was super excited too. So it took months, and then at one point the job stopped, and it was kind of going away or something, not going away, but just being forgotten, like it was not going to come out. And then they send an email like, oh, the New York Times is interested in this, they want this, and they want to do the opinion piece that Megan Thee Stallion did. Anyway, and then it became a job again, and then they were like, oh, the New York Times may have notes, and we're like, no. Like we've been too long on this project, you're gonna get it how it is. And anyway, it ended up just being it ended up being at the New York Times, and it had a great response in general. We got like, not we, but the VP, we got like it was a letter from the congresswoman. Anyway, we got a lot of like big repercussion, and then we also, and then after that, so this was while I was at Farger, and after that we got like so many awards and so many things in this project, which is great. It's not, for that's the reason why it's worth it, but I'm just saying, you never really know, like a project that was not supposed to be much, it became a whole thing, and it wasn't like an easy ride, but it was very, very cool and important. I had a lot of freedom while editing because of all the issues. So I had a lot of freedom to do my thing, and it became great. So you really, you never know.
I love it. I think that's such an important lesson for anything, and the power that you have as an editor to be able to bring life into something that looks, I'm not saying that this particular project like, hopeless, but there's plenty of projects out there that feel hopeless and feel like, oh, this is not, but if you're able to completely think out the box and not be tied to storyboards or scripts, and actually just look at what's in front of you, or look at what you might be able to add that isn't already there, you can create amazing stuff. That's so cool. I love that. I want to quickly, because again, we a little short on time, I feel like I can talk to you for ages, but in terms of something exciting that you've been doing now, like you recently directed a really great piece of work. Do you want to talk to us a little bit about that, like working, directing?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not like a director or I've never, like, it's not like I have that goal. Like I love being an editor, and I want that. There's so much for me to do still as an editor, but I was reached out to direct a music video, and I was like, again, why not? Like, like let's challenge myself. Let me do something different. And so I invited a good friend of mine that's a director that we have a very similar vision, like creatively, we're very synced. So, and I was like, you have the like what to do, you have the experience, so let's do it together. So we did that, and that was like, it was more than a year ago, actually over a year ago, that we shot it, and everything went great. I was able to get like an amazing crew, like beautiful people in the industry, like so much talent in this. And it's finally like the artist took a year off, there was a whole thing, but now it's finally like coming out, and it's already like nominated for things. It's like getting a nice response, and it's really beautiful. It's a beautiful track, and it's gonna come out probably in the next week or so. So that's exciting, just trying something different, not moving and not becoming a director, but it's cool to change your brain. It was actually really hard to edit this, not hard, but it took me a while because I knew so much of it. Like we were saying, it's so nice to like have a different take on something and just do you. And I'm so used to getting other things like that. I'm not expecting that much, or even as much as you know about a project, you're still, your thing is still surprised when you get the footage. You don't know what you get. And with this, I knew so much. I shot it, I was there, I had the idea, I wrote it. Like it's like so much involvement that for me editing was like, I almost like don't want to do it next time. Like I just find it important to have someone else with a different vision, different take. I think it adds to it. But I think it turned out well.
Yeah, it's also. Do you want to mention the name of it, and then I'll make sure that the links are there.
Oh yeah, it's West Side. I just posted a still, 2 stills, because it got nominated, so it's probably the last thing I posted, but it's gonna come out soon. I'll post on my Instagram and stuff like that.
Awesome. I'm gonna share again all your links and stuff so people have that. Awesome. So in terms of let's have a look. If you're happy, I mean, obviously it's like 2 minutes to 9, but if you're happy to chat for a little bit, we've got a couple more questions, or we can end now and then we could answer them in different ways.
Oh, that's okay. I could answer a few more, and then if anybody,
and then we'll
make on my Instagram, we can chat.
Yeah. Okay. So tech setup. We've talked very creatively, but although I think Simon's had a couple of questions, but this is a nice one. I'm sure people will be interested. So, if you travel so much as you do, but obviously work remotely, like depending on the project, what kind of tech setup do you have for yourself if you're not going into a suite that's set up?
Yeah. So I don't need much. I mean, I have in New York, I have an office, and here we have an office, like on home office. So we're good. And I do like to have, my setup, which is, like a big setup, multiple screens, and, everything I need, the power I need, a Mac Tower, blah, blah. But when I travel, I usually, like, I have a very, very good laptop that's actually portable and very like small, so it's just very, very great but small, so it's not too heavy. And if I need a screen, I would get a screen. I still haven't done that, but I could, like, you could get a monitor. That's the only thing I would do other than that, just to have a better view. But normally I find myself working, if I need like a big setup, I would go in London or something. Like I have my bases, or I have some place that have a screen, but if I didn't have it, I would just get it. And it's just to have that, but then it's the minimum you can do, because you do need a big screen. If it's small things, you can work off a laptop, but it has to be a really good laptop. But yeah, what I do that's helpful is I work with Premiere Teams, which is basically, I don't know if you guys know that one, but it's like, it's the way Avid shares shares in one project, shares the changes, like Teams does that. So with my assistants, it's pretty easy, because like I don't need everything is in the cloud, so I just always have access to this project. I don't need to be duplicating like things like that it used to be like that in Premiere. So everything's in the cloud, and I can access anywhere and just get the changes, share the changes. And this is like this I find that was like a new thing that's really good for the workflow. But yeah, and I use Mac. I don't do PC.
Yeah, same. Are you using a mouse
Nothing against it, but
with your laptop? Are you? Oh, sorry, Mel. You go.
So now I have one here, a laptop here, and a station. But I'm not. But there's an office there. I'm just not wearing because it's dark. It's too dark for this. But
do you use
in
a
the office,
mouse or a Wacom pen, like when you're cutting?
Oh, a Wacom.
Wacom, yeah.
A Wacom pen, and I prefer it.
Yeah, cool. Okay, I'm going to try the quick fire round that I mentioned because I just want to try this out. I think there's not loads of questions, so it'll be quite fun. You've already kind of answered one of them, but I'll do it anyway. Avid or Premiere?
Premiere.
Music or sound effects? Don't overthink it.
Sound effects.
Music videos or commercials?
Commercials, actually.
Really? That's interesting.
It's because of the industry that sucks, not because the creative, but the industry is. You can do a cool commercial that's like a music video, like the Vogue Italia project I did recently. It's for Vogue, but it's a music video and it's pretty cool and interesting. And yeah, it was better. It's fine. The music videos are fun, but I don't know. You have to do it here and there. It's like it's abusive relationship a bit.
Yeah, I think I know what you mean. Remote working or working together? Like, do you prefer to kind of be quite isolated? Yeah.
Isolated. Yeah, I'm very much about when I'm editing. I prefer to be alone. Like, it's so important to me. Like, it's like me in my own world. Yeah, I don't love it. That's why I love this remote situation. Nobody's like sitting here. It's fun for like have a drink later, but that social part is fun. But the editing, I prefer to the isolation.
I love that. And that's it. Thank you everyone so much, and thank you, Ma. If there's anything is there anything you're doing at the moment that you want people to know about, or anything you want to promote?
No, I think I mean it's good. Whatever more questions you can DM me, I'll try to get to it. But yeah, and I usually post often what I'm doing or what's up, what's new. So yeah, you can keep up there.
Awesome. Thank you everyone so much. Yeah, it's been really great to chat with you, and super inspiring and great to follow what you're up to. So yeah, everyone go and check out Mar's work if you don't know it already, and head to the Edit Girls website, it's editgirls.com, and you can read other stories. Like I'm sharing stories of editors that work in TV. I've got a really cool one coming up. I don't know if anyone's seen The Dropout, the new Apple Plus TV series with Amanda Seyfried. It's yeah, about Elizabeth Holmes, the billionaire medical yeah, and the real story behind it. Like, yeah, and her episodes are just amazing, and again, longer form, kind of cool. Like I said before, it really teaches different editors about different styles and different industries. Cool. Thank you everyone. I'll upload this and I'll send you all the link as well.
Thank you so much, guys.